Hey everyone, and welcome to Inside D2 Football. Thought we were going to have the full crowd with you tonight, with all five of us here and ready to go. K-Ferg's actually on the road at the moment. Hopefully, he will join in progress. But we've got Matt Witwicky, Coach Poe, Justin Pelissi, Tony Nicolette, and myself, Chuck, here to get you started. And hopefully, we'll have K-Ferg by the end of the show, cover a few things in his territory, and go through the picks for the Super 7 heading into week number 5. Hard to believe, guys. Some of these teams are already at mid-season. We've got teams that have already played 5 games. Hard to believe we're already steamrolling into October. By the time we get back together next week, it'll be the month of October, which means we won't be too far away from talking about regional rankings and positioning for playoffs and all kinds of new stuff that we'll be able to talk about once we get to that point. So until then, we still have a lot of action to recap from this past weekend. So we've got a whole slate of games to go through. We've got some spotlight games that we'll begin with. Kind of the top 4 has been our pattern. We'll go through some of the top 4 games. Got a little bit of highlight material to go through. We'll do sort of the Sports Center on those. And we have a whole bunch of wrap up to do from around the country. And then we'll start looking ahead to next week. So we are going to start in MIAA country. And guys, this is one that I think a lot of us did see coming, actually. I think we look back at the picks from last week. I think there was some pretty decent representation for Northwest in this game. Whit, I know you had eyes on this. Pretty resounding victory for the Bearcats here.
Yeah, I came into this game, Chuck, kind of like you alluded to, curious because UCO to me looked like they were kind of not what they were a year ago when they were really making their rise back, up to the top and getting into the top 5 and so forth. And we were kind of curious to see, how could they do against a pretty capable upstart now, Northwest Missouri State opponent. And let's go ahead and roll the video. If we go ahead and we take a look, you're going to see Chris Runke from Northwest doing some running early from the quarterback spot, getting some nice yards right there. This one's down in Maryville. And then he gets loose. And I'll be honest, guys, I didn't realize he had this extra gear. And all of a sudden, Northwest is out to a good start. 14-7 at half. Jalen Cottrell on the sideline dressed, did not play in this one. Not sure if we had an injury or last minute scratch, whatever it was. William Mason scores there, and you see the way Northwest, they kept UCO under 300 yards for this contest. They've kind of been moving in this direction where we look like a pretty solid defensive team, an opportunistic team offensively, and you're going to go ahead and see some of that here as we're looking. The Bearcats wearing the black, the silver numbers. I'm not sure if I'm in love with that, but you go ahead and you see right there, Runke hits Erwin Nash, transfer on in for the squad from KU, and nice score. And Northwest just playing some good defense and really kind of controlling the action. And they just went ahead in the back half of this game and kind of took off and end up winning the game pretty convincingly. And in the third quarter, guys, I sent out a tweet and I said, are the Bearcats back? Because it sure felt like it when you have a resounding win like this. And, you go ahead and the defense, I'm not saying that they were from the days of old, but 3 sacks, you can see some pressures there, limiting the running game of UCO. And they're just not at a point right now where, a young Clayton Creasy at quarterback, he's gotten put in this position as a young quarterback, kind of not thinking he was going to be the guy this year, but, with Jet gone and they're just not electric like they were a year ago in the downfield game. And guys, when I walk away looking at this thing, I walk away with 2 major things. I look at this and say, Northwest feels like they're definitely back in the top 25 conversation. While at the same time, I walk away from this saying, this is not last year's UCO. And I need to kind of adjust my view on them going forward. Tony, how do you see it?
Yeah, I'm in the exact same boat. And I actually, Chuck can vouch for this, I actually had Northwest on the 25 line in my poll this past week. And part of that is because I've been kind of keeping an eye on them just in terms of how they responded to that week 1 loss against Mankato. And obviously we all know that was, hey, your new coach and everything else. And I know that McMiniman's not new to Northwest, but he's just new first year in terms of running the whole show. But I'll be honest with you guys. I did have an offline conversation with our buddy Dykstra here within the last couple of weeks. And he's seen some things from this Northwest offense where he's even started to say this. He's like, I'm trying to be cautiously optimistic, but it's starting to look and smell a lot like it used to. And it's not to say that they're going to light everything up like this every week. But I've seen enough consistency out of them where I wasn't particularly surprised by this. I mean, I hemmed and hawed on the show last week, but I think when I was researching how I was going to pick, Northwest kind of was glaring to me. Like, I think this is where I got to go. And obviously, they proved that out. And, there are a lot of issues on the injury side of things for UCO. I'm not going to say that it's a complete dumpster fire over there. They've had some unfortunate things happen where if they were at full strength, we might be having a different conversation, but that certainly fed into things.
Well, John Dykstra is never cautiously optimistic about anything, but let's go ahead and Coach Poe, do you feel like Northwest is back? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, for me, this game, and I actually took UCO in this one, but I think for me, it was kind of, they have to show me they're back, right? And they have to prove and win some big games, and they've done that. I think they're showing that. I'm not going to say they're back, but I think they're well on their way to being back. And I think it's a lot of teams. And I think Northwest is just one example, right? New coaching staff. We're now 4 or 5 weeks into the season. So now we're really getting to see what some of these teams have, right? So we talk about all the guys that you gain and lose in the transfer portal. To me, now is when you start really seeing some of the good teams start rising to the top, and the teams that maybe weren't who we think they are, they start dropping. And I think that's what we have here is Northwest is starting to, they're starting to gel. They're starting to play together. They've played 5 games now. So that team is coming together and they're starting to reach their peak, and they're starting to play really good football. Same thing for UCO. Hey, it's not the same team we saw last year. And I think they're showing us that now, and they've got to fill some gaps. They've got to grow and get better themselves. But you're seeing 2 different teams on 2 different trajectories right now. But I think Northwest is well on their way to being a top 25 team and getting back to, I think, where their expectations are in the top 5, top 10 nationally.
Chuck, Northwest, do you feel that they're a top 25 team? And conversely, now that we look a little bit more at this year's UCO, are they a top 25 team?
Yeah, Poe kind of took my line there. That's exactly what I was thinking. It's 2 teams on very different trajectories right now. Mm-hmm. I think UCO just isn't that team this year. And that happens. It happened to Central Missouri last year when they ran into some problems and lost a couple games early. We didn't necessarily think they would. There's other teams we could point to as well. You come into the season with really high expectations, and they're just not the same team, and a couple of bad breaks. And, all of a sudden you're kind of looking at being on the outside of the top 25. Their 2 losses are to 2 very good football teams, but I think at this point, UCO's not really showing that they are a top 25. So I think they probably fall either to the very end and potentially even fall all the way out. But on the other end of this, Whit, I really didn't think we would be bringing Northwest Missouri back into the conversation this quickly.
Right.
I really didn't. Now,
by the end of September.
Right. I mean, now I hold Minnesota State in very high regard. The consistency that they have there, it didn't shock me that Northwest was humbled at that game. But I really didn't think that we'd be bringing the Bearcats back into the top 25 conversation this early. And guys, look at the MIAA standings. There's a whole lot of football left to be played, but the Bearcats are at the top. They've got a lot of momentum on their side. All of a sudden, it's now not just looking like a team that could have a decent year, a winning season, and, start to show that they're building back. All of a sudden, I think they can recalibrate their own expectations. There's no reason to think that they're not an MIAA championship contender at this point.
No doubt.
All right, well, let's move on to our next game, Whit, and we'll go to the South Atlantic Conference. And this one actually had a bit of a delay. They started, I think, played about most of the first quarter and then had to go to the locker rooms for a while. I think they came back out and had to go back to the dressing rooms. Storms and weather delays were an issue in several different places. But at the end of it, Carson-Newman walks away. 2nd year in a row, they get Wingate in the regular season. Get a really nice victory here. And now, again, we start talking about teams getting themselves back into the conversation for top 25. Whit, I know we have some highlights here to walk through, but Carson-Newman gets a really good road victory here.
Yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at the video, and then we'll talk through it a little bit more. You're going to go ahead and see here we're field level, and Zane Whitson, the quarterback from Carson-Newman, gets loose a little bit here, steps on a Lego before it goes out of bounds, and all of a sudden it kind of gets up a little funky, but he's backing okay. And a little bit further along, they do about a 2-yard tush push here, and all of a sudden he gets on in, apparently. It was very close, but touchdown there. And we've always kind of talked about, Wingate, what's kind of that number where it's a little bit too much for it to be too of a high scoring game. But that was an immediate worry as this defense from Carson-Newman continues to play very well. And, right around the heels of me saying that, all of a sudden, Holmes gets loose and we got a foot race. And this is the only Wingate touchdown for a long portion of football game before it was pretty much, glorified garbage time. Now, as we're moving ahead in the game, Jaden Sullins, who is on our Elite 100 team, nice running back for them, goes ahead and gets a huge carry right here and puts them in a great spot to do the exact same thing once again. And they go ahead and they move forward. I'm not sure why Wingate didn't take care of the A-gap a little better there. But Carson-Newman goes ahead and was 21-7 for a good bit. Wingate scores late, but too late at that point. And when we go ahead and we look at this one, guys, we weren't sure if Carson-Newman could put a few games like this together back-to-back against strong opponents, because it felt like last year they kind of fell a little short on that. Now, this time they did. I think they're another team in a very similar conversation, Tony. I think we got to look at this team as a one that we're looking at clearly within the top 25 now.
Yeah, for sure. Especially when they can go to a top 20 opponent like a Wingate on the road and beat them at their own game. I mean, this was a game where Elijah Holmes is at 12 of 29 line. I don't think that even tells the real story of just how hard it was for him to find anything open. And that was even in the second half when things were starting to get into more 2-minute, 4-minute, 8-minute, as far as, okay, we're behind and we got to come back. I mean, it was tough sledding all the way around. Carson-Newman's defense was far more impressive than I was expecting going into this game. And yeah, I mean, I think any conversation around them breaking into the top 25, I mean, that's 2 weeks in a row where they've beaten ranked opponents, or at least ranked at the time that they played them. It's kind of hard to ignore them at this point.
Poe, do we think that maybe Carson-Newman at this point is kind of the class of the conference of the SAC?
Well, yeah, that's an interesting question there, Whit, because as you look at that league and you look at the standings, I mean, they follow up Lenore, Ryan, Wingate. They have Emory and Henry next week. Emory and Henry's 3-1 in the league. That's going to be a big test for Carson-Newman, and I think we'll really know where they sit coming out of that game. Right now, Mars Hill is the only undefeated team in the SAC at 2-0. So, and they still have a long road of teams to play in the South Atlantic Conference. So it's hard to see anybody really going undefeated in the league. So I think right now, Carson-Newman, to me, it checked off 2 big wins the last 2 weeks. They have a big Emory and Henry team coming in or up this week. So I do think Carson-Newman is going in the right direction. I think they slipped up against Mars Hill, but I do think they're going in the right direction. I think they were able to build on what they had last year. And quite frankly, whatever their recipe for success is, they have had it against Wingate 2 years in a row, particularly in the regular season, guys.
Chuck, on the other side of the coin, Wingate, we just ranked them. And then this happens. We always kind of have a curse with teams. I think literally if you're in the 20 to 25 range and we rank you for the first time of the year, there is a coin flip chance you will drop that next game. It's like a D2 curse of ours.
It almost seems more than coin flip.
Chuck, what was your take out of this when you're looking at kind of the Wingate side of things?
Well, Tony used a phrase that was rattling around in my head, which is they beat them at their own game. Carson-Newman beat them at their own game. This is the type of game that Wingate normally wins. Low scoring, not a lot of offense, very defensive. That's Wingate's ball game. Like they have never been an explosive offense. That's not really what they do. They win games with defense. They win games by minimizing mistakes. So to beat them on their own field at night, being the road team when you have weather delays like they had, that's always a disadvantage. So for them to kind of overcome all that and beat Wingate at home, I think this is a really impressive win for Carson-Newman.
Yeah.
Probably a pretty deflating loss too for Wingate. So they're going to have to regroup and move on from this pretty quickly because, like Poe said, there's still a lot of games coming up for them. But this might be one that's a little tough to get over.
Well, yeah. And to your point, Chuck, I mean, Wingate still has, they still have Catawba, Emory and Henry and Lenore Ryan on their schedule. So 3 pretty tough games for them still ahead of them.
Yeah. A lot of tough work to do. All right. Well, let's move on from that one. We'll go to the only top 25 matchup that we had this weekend. We had Slippery Rock at home against California. Cal playing their first road game in almost a full calendar year in this one. And guys, this is one that we all got wrong. Everyone picked Slippery Rock in this, although we all acknowledged this was a toss-up game, but we all went with Slippery Rock. California gets out of this with a fantastic 7-point victory. And Whit, I know we have quite a few highlights to roll from this one. So why don't we walk through that, kind of like give everyone a little bit of an idea of how this played out, and then we'll revisit with some commentary.
Yeah, hold on to your seat because this one got a little bit wild early. And you're going to go ahead and see, we talked about DeJuan Owens, new quarterback for Slippery Rock. He's been making plays and, a younger player, and you see them get on the board early. Now, on the other side, we've got Roman Purcell, who is, the new quarterback for Cal. And he was making some plays in this one, too, a wildly open, wide out there for the score. And we're 7-7 here. And I'm watching this game thinking, okay, this is going to be, back and forth. And I'll be honest, I really thought that Slippery Rock coming into this game was going to be the one. And a really ill-advised pass right there. I'm not sure, that's not the time to throw that one. And all of a sudden, we've got Keith Charney going the other way for a score. It felt like whatever momentum Slippery Rock had kind of quickly dissipated because then that play happens. Then they fumble on the kickoff at their own 25, and Purcell heads on in. And all of a sudden, Cal has got Slippery Rock playing chase early. And I didn't see this one coming, but there's plenty of fade routes in this highlight package. You're going to see another one right there as John Sabo scores and does a little bit of basketball afterwards and shoots the J. But Purcell keeps on coming, and you're going to see him. He's making plays too. So both quarterbacks making some plays. Now, to be honest, both teams also turn the ball over a little bit. But you're also going to see, as we're taking a look at these highlights here, you're going to see DeJuan Owens making a play there. And then shortly thereafter, you're going to go ahead and see it feels like, okay, Cal's just got to kind of put this one away. And then we got a fumble and things of that sort. And this game, that's why I said, hold on to your hat. I mean, this one got back and forth. It got back and forth so much that the video paused there for a moment. But J.J. Jordan, running back number 4 for Slippery Rock, we will talk about him more this year, I think. He is a really good athlete. He does a little bit in the run and pass. And then late in the game at 38 all, minute left, Cal scores 45-38 winner. Huh, Chuck, I'm tired.
Well, it was kind of an exhausting. It was a lot of fun to watch. It was a really fun game. A lot of exciting plays. We saw some of those. Unfortunately, there were also a lot of bad plays in this one. At times, it was not necessarily a well-played game. A lot of mistakes. Turnovers were a huge factor. I don't know if we were really able to capture all of it in the highlight there, but after the pick 6, what you mentioned at the very next play, Slippery Rock fumbled the kickoff. Cal gets excellent field position. They score. That all happened. Cal's first 3 touchdowns of the game happened in like 4 minutes. And so all of a sudden, Slippery Rock's a little bit shell-shocked. And to their credit, they responded to that. They actually came back. They took the lead later in the game. Unfortunately, because of some of those mistakes, it set Cal up into a position where they only needed 2 scoring drives in the second half to win the game, and they were able to do that. So there's all kinds of stuff to unpack. But Whit, I know you know this because we talked last night, but the thing that really stood out to me the most in the second half, the way California was able to work the run game. They really owned the line of scrimmage against Slippery Rock's defense. And, Slippery Rock is not a team that wears down easily. Cal wore them down late in the game. They were getting chunk yards. They were moving the sticks consistently, running straight at them. And that's not something that most teams can do against Slippery Rock. So that was really impressive for California. So when you look at the whole package for them in the first half, it was explosive plays. It was pushing the ball down the field. It was Roman Purcell making plays, running and throwing. And then in the second half, they just really worked the run game to perfection. Overall, I think the Cal coaching staff did a fantastic job managing this game. So a great victory for them on the road.
Now, Chuck, if I'm not mistaken, did Cal win this matchup regular season last year? And then Slippery Rock beat them in the postseason, right?
That is exactly right, Whit. And because of Cal winning that game in the regular season, Cal played in the PSAC championship game. So we could be trending in that same direction. Now, still a lot of football to be played here. We're going to talk about IUP a little bit later. They've rebounded really nicely. So there's still a lot of football to go, but we potentially are heading towards that same kind of scenario.
Tony, let me ask you, in terms of watching some of those highlights, you see that both teams have some real offensive firepower. Seems like they both have a high ceiling. Do you think that these two are essentially the two favorites that we're looking in Super Region 1, or am I getting ahead of myself?
Well, I think Kutztown may have something to say about that, as they have in past years. But I think this still comes back to some of the things that we seem to talk about on the show every week, but they always bear repeating, and it's finishing drives. I mean, I agree with Chuck. Cal really ran the ball well, especially as the game went on. But actually, Slippery Rock did too. And the possession before Cal got the game winner, Slippery Rock had a first and goal, I think, inside the 5. And they had run the ball a big chunk of the way down the field to get themselves into position. And then they kind of floundered the rest of that drive and then missed a chip shot field goal. So, I mean, the Rock should have had a lead at the very least when Cal took over with the next possession. And so finishing drives, man, doesn't matter how good your offense is, man. If you're not putting up points, it's going to bite you sooner or later. And this game could have just as easily tipped in the other direction if Slippery Rock had maybe been a little bit more effective on that end of it.
Yeah.
Oh, taking a look at these two teams, two quarterbacks who don't have a lot of history with us and all that stuff, but it looks like both of them can make some plays, eh?
Yeah, they both put up pretty good stat line, and they both I think for the most part played pretty well in a big time game that has pretty big implications. So for two guys that we don't talk about too awful much, it's I was impressed with the way they played, what they did, and it's games like these that prepare you. You get to play these type of games every week, so it's games like this that prepare you for postseason and championship.
Yeah, both D's looked exhausted in the fourth quarter. Yeah. I mean, they both just look beat.
Yeah. Yep. Whit, before we move on from this one, let's bring in K Ferg, or at least the silhouette of K Ferg. Good time to bring our guy in because K Ferg, were there some fantasy implications with this game?
Yeah, my boy JJ Jordan. Yes, I needed that, man. Ooh, I needed that. I got to get a win somewhere against somebody.
Well, but yeah, Whit mentioned it. JJ Jordan had a huge night against a very good Cal team. That's a player that we expect to see a lot more of as the season goes on. So, and welcome to the show, K Ferg. Good to have you here.
Thank you.
All right, Whit, let's go on to our final spotlight game. Actually, before we do that, we threw this in here because we wanted to mention this. This was some breaking news during the week. In fact, this landed just in time for Whit and Time to kind of break this publicly on NSIC Weekly. How about this? This is really exciting. Slippery Rock and Minnesota Duluth announced a home-and-home series for Week 0, 2026 and 2027. So next year, Duluth will come down to Pennsylvania and play at the Rock, and then the return trip the following year. Whit, for years, the NSIC not having out-of-conference games, I know how frustrated you were by that, and then the way things would land, they just played each other in the playoffs. Something like this has to be super exciting for you.
I still have residual festivity from those days. So, yes. I mean,
What?
Yeah, you heard me. I mean, there's times
right.
where coaches in the Northern Sun, Chuck, will say something to me like, yeah, maybe we just ought to go back to how it was. And I will be like, We're done talking right now. We'll talk in a few weeks, but I can't tolerate you right now. So because it drives me crazy. You're right, Chuck. So when I heard about this, I was over the moon. I mean, give me a matchup where you're going to have two squads that are typically in the top 15, top 25, somewhere in that neighborhood. And heck, right now we're talking about two teams that were almost top 10-ish. And let's have them meet at the very beginning of the year, and two teams that wouldn't cross paths otherwise and everything else. So, and just like B said right here, our guy, week 0 has been tremendous it's really the Northern Sun and the MIAA have really embraced it right when it happened. And it's kind of starting to move out from there. And we're seeing more and more and more. And it's great, because I think coaches across the country are looking at this going, I'm jealous of that. I want to be involved in that. And I'm sure Slippery Rock, they're trying to win a national title. They're not trying to just have a winning season. When teams think that way and are acting that way, we get games like this.
Yep. And we want to celebrate that too when teams challenge themselves. These are two teams that could go look for lesser competition to rack up the win. We love to see teams get out and challenge themselves and look for quality opponents like this. So we are very excited. This will be definitely one of the spotlight games heading into week 0 next year. So awesome to see that, but that will have to wait until 2026. Whit, let's continue with our week 5. We'll go to the GAC. Harding and Ouachita has really kind of been the game the last couple of years in the GAC. 24-7 final. But I thought Ouachita really represented pretty well in this. It's kind of one of those ones where I don't know that Harding was ever really in trouble here, but Ouachita certainly made them earn it.
They were within arm's length for a good portion of this football game. And the yardage, I mean, after 2-3 quarters in, they were both right around 200 yards each at the time. And you took a look at it, and I mean, Harding was cashing in a little bit better like they normally do. And let's go ahead and take a look at some of the video here. And we've got quarterback Cole Keelan and company here. We don't have a ton of highlights of him typically, but you know what? He doesn't carry that frequently, but when he does, he just makes plays and he moves the chains very frequently. And Braden J on a sweep, and whoop-de-doo, just went over a little bit. But like a cat lands on his feet, I would have landed flat on my back. But move on into that guy's getting pretty entertained by that and telling his friends about it. Then you go ahead, and all of a sudden you're waiting for that sweep again, and you get Andrew Miller hitting you right up the middle for big chunk yards. And this is what makes this offense so tough to stop. I mean, you see, and then he cuts one back here. A little bit bigger back than Blake Dela Cruz. That was a guy, who was heavily used in the past. And now we're going to get the cutback run that he does every week. If I was the safety, I would stay in the middle of the field, wait for him to come back to me. But Braden J is just really something. And then you go ahead and you see they're able to kind of hit a field goal here from distance that just kind of helps solidify things, make it a 3-score contest. And at this point, you're 8 minutes left in the contest, and Ouachita's got to try and go ahead and move against that defense with their ears pinned back. And that's not a real good recipe for success. And you go ahead and you get a chance to see Harding's kind of next group of guys, and 59, the left tackle, threw a lookout block on that one. But this was, I think, a very good game for Harding to have, because they were tested. This probably down there, I bet this had a playoff feel to it for them. And because they're playing their rival who beat them a season ago in a well-contested game. And they went ahead and weathered the storm of that first half where it was lower scoring, and then went ahead and kind of took business and was clearly the better team in the second half. And Chuck, we're going to listen to Paul Simmons from on the Harding broadcast afterwards. By the way, Billy and company do a tremendous job on this. Kudos to them. Let's watch a little bit of this.
The message before the game was, we're going to separate. We're going to separate. I don't know how long it's going to take. We might have to swing 99 times to break through on that 100 swing, but we're going to separate. It took longer than I hoped, But man, just really, really proud of the guys. And, the thing is we left a lot out there, left a lot of points out there, but really, really proud of just the persistence the young men showed and the grit. And, the deal is we talked about winning every day all week. And I started Saturday night, how you handle business after a big win on SAU. Well, what do we do on Sunday? And then can we find a way to win on Monday and stacking up wins? And then all week long, we got to beat OBU every single day this week if we want to have a chance to win Saturday. And I really do believe that in the preparation and the way they did everything all week long.
You see Coach talk right there, and I every time I listen to Coach Simmons, I always think it's pretty amazing to see their persistence with regard to the immense focus they have on just making sure everything is all about being the best they can be and aiming for perfection and kind of along the way capturing excellence. And they, over these last few years, the way that they've been able to do that in a super consistent way is wildly impressive. And, we saw that again here today. Tony, I'm going to throw it to you. We thought Harding would win this game, but I think this was good for them, Tony, because of the fact that we're not sure if they're going to get pressed like this again until playoff time, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think over the last handful of seasons, we've seen that within GAC play, until we see otherwise, Ouachita has been the only team that has consistently shown that they can actually keep Harding's scoring numbers down. So whether it's they have a better understanding of how to play the assignments in terms of what types of personnel they have up front, both in terms of big guys in the middle and having really active ends. Those are the types of things that you have to have if you're going to be able to try and keep Harding down and keep them within range. And again, Ouachita is the only team in the GAC that has consistently proven that they're capable of at least doing something close to enough to being able to get wins or keep those games close. So, yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. I look at the rest of Harding's schedule, and if we look at how they've been played by those teams the rest of the way, nobody's really been able to stay this type of close to them consistently.
Poe, you being a old offensive coach, when you watch them run this flex bone, does it still even get you when you're watching it, like trying to follow where the ball is, who's got it, and the experience they have with how well they run it?
Oh, sure. I mean, they run it like a well-oiled machine, and it even myself as a coach, you sit there and look at it, and you're like, who's got it? Or sometimes they trick you with your eyes, and you're looking at the dive, and there it is on the perimeter, or vice versa. So yeah, they run it really, really, really well. They've done it for a long time. They've seen a lot of different stuff out of it. So yeah, it is impressive to watch when it is clicking like they are clicking. Man, it is fun to watch, and they can score in a hurry. And so, yeah.
Ferg, I'm going to bring you on in, buddy. We're talking all about this offense, but the forgotten part of Harding is always that defense, isn't it?
Yeah. To be able to slow down, Ouachita, they're still trying to find their way offensively. They gave up quite a few yards in the passing game, but, when they need to lock down, they do. When you look at Ouachita's inability to consistently convert third downs. You got to do whatever you can to keep Harding's offense off the field, and the defense just did not let up for Harding. Think about it this way. Harding controlled the ball for 35 minutes. So the minimum amount of time that Ouachita has, they got to do something with it, and they just weren't able to do that. Credit to that defense.
Chuck, do you have any parting thoughts on Harding, or what are your thoughts, buddy?
Well, you guys unpacked the game pretty well. I want to say before we move on from this, when I turned this game on last night and I was watching it for a few minutes, the very first thing that I noticed and couldn't stop noticing it as I was watching, the overflow crowd throughout the stadium, all around that stadium. Yeah. Massive crowd, lots of excitement, a lot of engagement from the fans. It's so cool to see people turn out like that to support Division II football. And I know winning gets people to come out, But still, it's really cool to see a university and a student body, an alumni base, and a community rally around a team and come out and support them, especially when you have something as special as what Harding has right now. It's really cool to see it embraced and see all the people turn out for that. It was awesome to see. By the way, Arkansas Tech had a huge crowd at their game too. So kudos to everyone in Arkansas for turning out for Saturday night college football in D2.
No doubt. Night. Well, they were busy firing their head coach at the D1 level, so they were all going to watch something else.
Well, we know where the good football is in Arkansas. So, all right. Well, that'll bring a close to the spotlight games for the first segment of the show. But we still have a lot of other results that we want to get to. Coach Poe, I'm going to start with you here because we are going to begin in Super Region 2. UNC Pembroke going to Valdosta State. Thinking back to the picks last week, some of us did pick Valdosta, but nobody picked Valdosta with any confidence. I think Pembroke showed us why we were all pretty hesitant. What a great win for the Braves.
Yeah, huge win. And, let's not forget, guys, they were picked to win that conference. They are a team that a lot of people often overlook. They were an independent for a little while and bounced around in Super Region 2. But, guys, they've put it together. New coaching staff there is getting it, turning it around and getting it, playing competitive football. So for UNCP to go down to Valdosta State and beat them like they did, that was a very impressive win. For Valdosta State, I think there's a lot more question marks today than there was probably to start this thing. But huge win for Pembroke. Great job for them. And this is a building win for that program and that staff there. To get where they want to get to, I think don't look now, but I think that they have an opportunity. I think they're probably the favorite to win the Conference Carolinas. They get that automatic bid in the playoffs. We've talked about Super Region 2. Don't look now, but it's not unconceivable to think that they could make a run in the playoffs and in Super Region 2.
No doubt. And I mean, Valdosta is just really struggling right now, but UNC Pembroke has wins at Valdosta. They have a win at home against Delta State. So this is a team that's very quickly building its resume. Of course, they beat Fayetteville. They're never a pushover. So this is a team that's accumulating some really quality wins. I don't know if they break into the top 25 like this week or next week, but that's definitely a team to be looking at for voters in all the polls because they are very quickly building their resume. And talking about Poe continuing to build the resume, West Alabama 5-0.
Yeah. Yeah, they're just handling business week over week. New coaching staff down there after the early playoff loss last year. New staff and guys, I mean, they are just handling business week over week. And they were at North Greenville. Again, a highly picked team in Conference Carolinas. They understand what it's like to play in the Gulf South Conference. And so they're not phased playing a team like a West Alabama. And they gave West Alabama everything they could handle and then some. So a 52-44 victory for West Al on the road in a tough place to play. And again, I don't look now, but I'm not so sure North Greenville is not going to knock someone off here down the stretch as we go.
Excellent point, but they get somebody every year. North Greenville will get somebody every year. It could be Pembroke a little further down the road. So
absolutely.
And by the way, that shutout at Valdosta, first time since 1991 that the Blazers have been shut out. So quite remarkable. Let's go on, Whit, but let's stay, Poe, in your super region. There's one that came down, Newberry with the walk-off field goal in the last play. I'll let you kind of give us some thoughts on that one. And then Emory and Henry, a team we talked about a little bit earlier, they keep rolling with a win over Anderson.
Yeah, so, Newberry, Lenore Ryan's always been a pretty competitive rivalry there. And Newberry's a team that it doesn't really matter what their record is or how the season's going. They will fight from start to finish in the game. And, they're a tough out for anybody in the South Atlantic Conference in a week-to-week basis. You know what I mean? So to go on the road at Lenore Ryan, play in between the bricks, which is a tough place to play, and come away with a victory, that's a big deal for Newberry and kind of propelling them to getting them where they want to be in the postseason again. So a big win, tough place to play for if you're Lenore Ryan. You've got some injuries there you got to kind of figure out, and it's not going to get any easier if you're LR. So you have to get it turned, and you have to get it turned pretty dang quickly here if you're the Bears. And on the right side of that graphic there, Emory and Henry, that they are playing very, very good football right now. They're competitive. and they've got some big games coming up. I know they play Mars Hill in the next couple weeks. They play Wingate in the next couple weeks, and they handle business against Anderson. So they're a tough team. I'll be curious to see how they go. I think they've showed promise early in the last couple seasons, and they've kind of fizzed out there towards the end of it. So I'd like to see them put a whole season together, and you don't really know where this is going to land. And we were talking about it a little bit off air, but the South Atlantic Conference does not, to my knowledge, have a championship game this year. So it's going to come down to whoever wins that conference outright. So there's still a lot of really good football to be played in that conference this year. So, and if I am wrong on that, somebody please correct me, but I believe they got rid of the championship game this year, and it's just going to be the number 1 seed gets the automatic bid. And then we'll see where the dust settles on the rest of the Super Region playoffs. But either way, some really, really good football coming up here in Super Region 2 in the South Atlantic Conference, guys.
And back then, there's Gladwin checking in their SAC title game. Yeah, with the divisions and a lot of change in the membership for a couple reasons we won't rehash. But thank you, Ryan, for supporting that comment. So we clarify that. By the way, Poe, back to Lenore Ryan for a second. Guess who the Bears play this coming weekend? Valdosta State.
That is right. I forgot about that, Chuck. They did. And that's at Valdosta too, I believe, correct?
And that is interesting for a whole different set of reasons than we expected. They've got both teams playing for their lives, so that will be quite interesting to watch. So let's move on. Let's go to a different part of the country. A little bit of a disappointment there for Arkansas Tech. They got pipped late in the game by Arkansas Monticello. It was actually a good game. I was watching a bit of that. Tech's 3-0 start. Unfortunately, they take their first loss of the season. Really good win there for the Bull Weevils. And on the other side, we had the Mule Riders going into Arkadelphia. They win a really close one at Henderson State. Guys, I think Arkansas Tech kind of making their case for sort of being that second best team in the GAC this year. Still a lot of football to be played. They've got some big games ahead. I think maybe the Mule Riders are making their point to be the second best team in the GAC. Into the RMAC, we had South Dakota Mines getting their first win of the season. They have had a very difficult start to the season, couple blowout losses. They get their first W, so congrats to the Hard Rockers. Chadron State. Now, this is kind of an interesting team to keep an eye on. They lost, I believe they started 0-2, lost their first 2 games, and now they've been on a nice little win streak here. Of course, they got the big win over Mines, and now they get Mesa this past week as well. So definitely an interesting team to keep an eye on out there in the RMAC. And Whit, friend of the show, Coach McCullough gets his 30th win at UTPB. May not seem like a big number, but he's still only been there a couple of years. And the Falcons get a win, a 37-15 final. Honestly, I don't even think it was that close. They kind of raced out to a big lead and then just sort of kept them at arm's length the rest of the way. But a little bit of a milestone there for the Falcons.
Yeah, and sometimes you don't even think about something like that. We just kind of see him as a coach. Only being 30 years old, that's wild. It really is. And he's already accomplished some things there, and really taken that program to where they're a top 10 team right now. So kudos to Coach McCullough, and they just keep on rocking.
All right. Then we'll move on from there. How about a couple results in your home conference, Whit? The Dragons got Duluth last year. This was close for a while. Duluth gets a 2-touchdown win at the end, but it kind of felt like this was a pretty good battle most of the way.
Yeah, it was interesting. I'm watching the game. Jack Strand, Moorhead gets the ball, go right down. They score a touchdown, and I was like, "Really? They're just going to do it like that, huh?" And I thought, okay, we're going to have a back and forth affair. And Duluth really shut them off from there and made him uncomfortable, and kind of slowly became the better team as this game moved on. Chuck, it was a 14-13 Moorhead game just before the end of the third, and then Duluth kind of owned everything from there. And they're winning games like this year that maybe a season ago they wouldn't have. So that's kudos to Duluth and the path that they're on right now. On the other side, Sioux Falls and Mankato, this was a 10-6 Mankato game at halftime. Teams are pretty even in yards. Coming right out of the break, Cam Dean for USF throws a pick. Mankato marches in for a score, and it was all Mankato from that spot on. Sioux Falls is pretty dinged up on the defensive side. probably half the starters are out due to injury now at this point, and they've been leaking oil the last few weeks. And at the same time, Mankato and Duluth in consecutive weeks is not the teams you want to be leaking oil against. And so both of the what I'm going to call to be two of the favorites in the conference, both took care of business against worthy opponents this last week.
All right. Good results there. Central Washington squeaked by Western New Mexico on the road, 91-31. I got a message late last night that we hadn't been tweeting out some results from the Lone Star. Unfortunately, all the games in the Lone Star Conference yesterday were not good games, as that one may attest to. 60-point win on the road. Obviously, Central has a lot going on, but Western, no defense there at all. And UIndy gets the 10-point win on the road against Truman. I really kind of went with Truman to win this game, not necessarily because I thought they were the better team, but I just felt like if Truman's going to win the GLVC anytime soon, they have to win this game. This is, UIndy is still a good team. This is not the UIndy from week 4, week 5 a year ago. I really felt like Truman should be able to match up and win this game. Didn't happen. So GLVC is still firmly in control of the Greyhounds. Somebody else took Truman in this one. Who else? Is anyone going to fess up to it, or are we going to try to? No one else took. Someone else took Truman here. Who was it?
Not me.
Truman. That's right. Yeah. All right.
Since I had that huge lead in the pick'em tuck, I just took a chance.
Yeah. So unfortunately, Truman does not come through for us. So UIndy gets the win. To the GMAC. Hey, Tony, I know you know these teams pretty well from going back years and keeping an eye on them. Were you projecting that as we head toward the season, we'd have undefeated Findlay and undefeated Walsh coming up this week as one of our games of the week?
No. No, that sounds mean, guys. But I mean, Findlay, them being 4-0 wasn't necessarily going to surprise me. Again, losing Matthew Reeve at quarterback through the portal, I think was something that I was a little interested to see how they would handle. And so their run game has been far more prominent so far this year. So, Findlay's, been one of those teams that consistently has been at the top end of the GMAC and has been either in or on the cusp of playoff contention in Super Region 1 the last stretch of years. Walsh, I did not have on my bingo card. Guys, this is the first 4-0 start for that program, I believe, since 2001. So it's not because I'm mean to Walsh. It's just none of us would have had a real reason to think that they'd start 4-0. But the Cavaliers have been they've been winning some teams, and again, that team. Let's not forget Ohio Dominican. While they're not the Ohio Dominican that we were seeing that was going deep in the playoffs 6, 8, 10 years ago, this is an Ohio Dominican team that beat Tiffin earlier this year. So that's a quality win for Walsh, and you got to give the Cavs a little bit of love for that.
No doubt. They've been slowly building something there. It's great to see.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go back to one of your leagues, the MIAA. Pitt State gets their third straight win with a big one over Emporia. Fort Hays held on at the very end and fended off Missouri Western.
Yeah, when I took a look at this Pitt State game, Emporia State hung around in this game. They threw for 1,000 yards or something, but Emporia State still has a very potent offense year to year, no matter who the quarterback is. But this Pitt State team just has a little bit too much this year, and you're starting to see some point totals from Pitt State that are a little bit higher than what we had seen a year ago. And you're starting to see them become a little bit more of that team that we think they can be. Proof of it right here. And then on the other side, Missouri Western has become an almost team. They almost beat Augustana week 1. They almost won this game. They were up in this game in the fourth quarter. And Fort Hays just was the better team in the back portion of the game and closed it on out. And, Western a week before that was it Central Missouri. They had a chance to win that game too. So they're able to punch for about 12 of the 15 rounds in the last 3. They're just not able to hold up. But a dangerous team, but Fort Hays just keeps on ticking here, Chuck.
Yeah. Yeah, great win for them, and they will probably remain then in our top 25. To the PSAC, we have celebrated Clarion's hot start to the year. They got to 3-0, got to 4-0. They were within an eyelash of getting to 5-0. Had a 20-0 halftime lead over Edinburgh, and the Fighting Scots rally, get a couple of late scores, and pipped them at the very end to get a nice win for them, 21-20 over the previously undefeated Golden Eagles. On the other side, IUP. I think we kind of dismissed them after the loss to Ashland. Not that there's any shame in losing to Ashland. We know that they're a quality team, but it was just a bad showing for IUP on that night. Well, since then, they've really responded in the way you would want them to. They really righted the offense. They've been moving the ball extremely well. They've been putting up some almost record performances in the passing game. Reevy's really kind of settling into that offense. So it's going to get pretty close to time to start reintroducing IUP into the conversation here. I'm not ready to bring them back into the top 25 conversation just yet, but that is another team to keep an eye on. And, of course, they have big games coming up the next few weeks with Slippery Rock and California. Also in the PSAC, East Stroudsburg trailed Lock Haven for a lot of this game, rallied at the very end, got the win over the Bald Eagles, and we did have Ashland winning at Northwood. That was one of our pick'em games last week. Close one, defensive football game, but the Eagles do get the win over the Timberwolves. And moving on from there, K-Ferg. Virginia State wasn't even ranked 25th. They were like 23rd. How did they lose this game?
Man, I tell you, Fayetteville State at home jumped on them early, and they exposed the one thing that I figured would be VSU's weakness is their secondary. I mean, and so Fayetteville State's passing game has just not really been there consistently this year, but they got something out of it last week against Elizabeth City, and then they turned it on again and did really well, especially with Damari Daniels at quarterback. Both teams turned the ball over. Both had 2 interceptions apiece, but in the end, Fayetteville State made them pay with a plus in the turnover margin. So,
and then on the other side of that, props to HBCU Game Day for the video that they posted. It's out there if you want to find it. That's David Jones. I know that the numbers are probably pretty small. They're 6'2", 350. The video was a big man TD. They lined him up in the old, what you remember this, the old refrigerator Perry formation at the goal line, and he plowed it in for 6. It's pretty funny. Go find that. Go watch it. It's cool to see. But on a more serious note, K-Ferg, Livingstone's got a pretty good start to the season going here.
Yeah, I mean, think about the fact that Allen had a pretty good showing last week, taking down Clark Atlanta in a huge scoring game, and Livingstone's defense shut them down. And so, yeah, they were obviously mismatched against Charleston, rightfully so, but they've been able to bounce back 3 straight wins and going a little bit further into conference play.
All right, good win for them. We've got a few more to get through, and then we'll let Whit sell some pizza, and then on to the picks for next week. Little drama in the Northeast 10. We had a pair of games that came down to very late field goals. Assumption gets a win over Franklin Pierce, kicked a field goal with about 30 seconds left to win that one. And St. Anselm gets actually their second win over Pace in like the first 5 weeks of the season. Also with a late field goal to win that one. So kind of looking like Assumption is the clubhouse leader here in the Northeast 10, but still a ways to go. But a big result to have on the board for them to fend off a pretty pesky Franklin Pierce team who's been playing some good ball lately. All right, Whit, let's kind of bring this to a close with a few more. Back to your territory of the country.
Yeah, this Augie game was kind of interesting. Augustana out pretty comfortably in this ball game. And then all of a sudden in the fourth quarter, they start to get what appeared to be a rash of injuries. Their quarterback, Gunnar Hensley, goes down with what looked like a lower leg injury and just kind of tumbled on over as he went to slide. He had to be helped off. And he's a star player for them and one of the best quarterbacks in not just the Northern Sun, but the kind of guy who'd be in the conversation for Elite 100. And then they have their tight end goes down, running back goes down, all within the matter of a certain amount of time. And they still went ahead and won the game, but it almost felt like it's you win the battle, but you might lose the war kind of thing. Now I have no idea what they're looking like for future weeks, but seemed like maybe some costly injuries for Augustana on their way to 5-0 in what was a very good victory over a pretty game Winona squad. Then on the other side, this game, Chuck, I watched this game till half. It was 3-3 till just before halftime, and Western Colorado was having trouble moving the football. Then they weren't throwing the ball especially well. They got the run game going, and then all of a sudden things snowballed. And Chuck, we've been watching the New Mexico Highlands. Freshman superstar running back was Jeffrey Jones. He only had 57 yards in this game, 12 touches. So we kind of figured that his string of games of 200 plus yards to start this year would probably come to an end when they played a stronger opponent. But I'm still looking forward to watching him the rest of the year. But this was one though where Western Colorado, good for them. There was a good first half test. But then, they went ahead and took care of business afterwards because they haven't played a real testy schedule so far this year. So we'll find out a little bit more about them soon enough.
Yeah, and that Highlands team has had no trouble moving the football. So I think it was a pretty good showing there for that Mountaineer defense to hold them to just 3 points. I think that,
no doubt
validates that they are who we thought they were. And we'll bring it to a close with a final one. Poe, this was a pretty interesting matchup. We wanted to throw this in there just because kind of rare. We don't see this type of matchup very often. We had Mary Harlan Baylor, top 25 D3 team coming up and playing at Mars Hill over the weekend.
Yeah, Mary Harlan Baylor ranked 16th, in Division III. Made the trip up to Mars Hill. It was pretty close there for I think at the half it was 7-5 at the half. It took me a second and they got some lightning delays like much teams in the Southeast this weekend. But I turned it on in second quarter and it was 7-5, and I'm like, surely the scoreboard's off. No, it wasn't. It was 7-5 at the half. Mars Hill came out, scored 2 touchdowns there in the third quarter, and Mary Harlan Baylor got another safety. But yeah, it was a good game. I thought it kind of shows that, yeah, there are some the score was 21-7, but there are some Division III teams that can compete at a Division II level. And I think Mary Harlan Baylor showed that this weekend, and Mars Hill at 3-1. So it's not like it's a slouch Division II team. But they went up and competed. It was a good game, but yeah, it was pretty interesting to see. You don't get to see that all the time.
Yeah, the Crusaders taking the roundabout way to get to 7 points in that one for sure. Very interesting. So,
wasn't
all
on
right,
my
well,
bingo card.
That'll bring the recap for this past weekend to a close. So, of course, we're going to spotlight what's coming up this week. But before we do, of course, let's have a word from our friends at Boss's Pizza and Chicken. Whit.
Yeah, once again, Boss's Pizza and Chicken in year 3 of sponsoring the show. And for those who may have interest opening their own Bosses on up, feel free to head on over to their website. You can see where the arrow is at on how to go ahead and find that and fill out the info there. Make sure that how did you hear about us? Tell them this awesome show that's on Sunday night. Well, you can just say Inside D2 Football, but you can elaborate if you want to as well. But before we move on, we do have a question from Bosses here. If we were down to just one meal on Sunday evenings, which, I mean, what fun is that? Chuck, I'm starting with you. Are we going pizza or are we going wings? And if we're going, whichever way you go, I need a little bit more detail on like what ingredients you're getting or how hot are the wings or wherever you're going with that.
Tough one. I'm going to go wings, and I'm going to go flats, and I want some just standard regular mild to medium hot buffalo, and I want half with a honey barbecue.
That doesn't sound so bad. Okay. Coach Poe, what would you get? And then I need to know for you, same thing with the dragon behind you, what the dragon would have. But no, what do you got for me, Poe?
Man, All right. So having grown up in New York, I've had some really, really good pizza. And so I'm very curious to try this pizza. So I'm gonna get a pepperoni pizza because gotta give it a shot. And then I'm gonna complement that with some buffalo wings traditional with some blue cheese.
Yep. And by the way, in the comments, I thought I'd point out that Joe is mentioning other locations right now, other businesses,
Competitors.
completely unacceptable on the show.
Banned.
You're about to get kicked off just on that alone.
Come on, Joe. Be better than that, Joe.
Boo this man.
Ferg, pizza, and by the way, before we get to Ferg, Justin, I don't know if you see, but these pieces are cut in squares. Now, I know that is not a New York thing. Is that a foul for you?
You know what? It is, but we're gonna give it a shot.
Okay.
I like a good piece of pizza, so if it's good, I'm down. Even though they cut it a little funny, which it is what it is.
That's how they do it in Chicago. It's not funny, Poe. But anyway, Ferg, where are we going with your decision?
Well, I sometimes like to go off the beaten path and cause controversy. And so
Not you.
So I'm going to go with pizza, but I'm going to go with Hawaiian with pineapple on my pizza.
Oh,
Ferg, we're about to bring you down off the show there on that. That's right up there with this answer, which is completely unacceptable.
wow.
How about we're going back to our college days there with the Natty Light. Oof, I don't know if I can do that anymore.
Wow. That's see how far I can stretch a $20 bill. Tony, what do you got here, buddy?
You're going to need to save some of that for toilet paper if you're drinking natural light.
Ooh.
I am a pizza guy all the way. Like I mentioned, I think maybe last week, I actually spent part of my high school years working in a pizza place for a family that emigrated from Italy. So while I like simple topping things, I also like a good deluxe. So if it's got the good sausage, pepperoni sausage, maybe a little bacon, onions, maybe some cabicola if you got it, that'd be good.
Ooh,
fair enough. And our guy Brandon did go ahead and chime on in, and I fully agree with him that this is designer pizza at that point, and not accepted on the show.
Is that why you failed at the pizza challenge at Bosses? Was there pineapple on the pizza?
Don't feel like you got to bring that up, Chuck, just because it's key to the city week in Sioux Falls, and that's when Brandon and I did that, bringing back memories of disgust. But so what's my answer, you ask? Okay, I'll tell you. I'm more in a mood for wings right now. So for me, as much as a pizza guy as I am, whether it's deep dish, Chicago style, or whether it's the, what we call tavern cut thin crust there, I'm more in a wings mood. But I think, guys, for me, this answer is probably going to be based upon what did I last have of the two, because I'm probably going to have a taste for the other one a little bit more. But maybe one of these weeks I should do a live eat-in where I just sit here and eat wings while you guys talk.
As long as you wear
I'll do it on camera. I'm not afraid to do that.
As long as you wear a tank top, I think we're good.
Whoa.
Keep the smacking to a minimum.
Our female viewers would go up in dozens. But Chuck, as much fun as that bit was, let's go ahead and move on to our next area.
Yeah, I'm afraid you don't have female viewers anymore since Tom got married, Whit. That's
samurai taking the strays. But
I'm afraid that's just your lot in life. But let's move on from that. Let's look at our games of interest coming up this week. We kind of already talked about that first one on the card there, LR and Valdosta. Of course, we expected that to be interesting because we thought, could be playoff implications and all that. Unfortunately, this is a little bit more of a game of survival. It'll be interesting to take a look at that one.
Yeah, Chuck, I'll be honest, when they announced that game, I didn't think that we would be looking at two teams that are taking a standing A count right now.
Right.
Right. And that's kind of where we're at. But there's a whole lot of colorful games on this list. I'll tell you one that might be sleepy good is that Kearney at Pitt State. Kearney's a physical football team. I don't think they beat Pitt State, but I don't. They're not going to roll over and play dead. That's going to be, I think, a pretty interesting game. As we look through this, Coach Poe, Catawba doesn't make our list all that frequently. They're off to a 4-1 start.
Yeah, they're doing well. Last year I don't think they met my expectations, so I'm excited to see them at 4-1. That's a big matchup right there. Two teams in the South Atlantic Conference that may have playoff implications. So should be a pretty good game. I'm excited to watch that one.
Yep.
It's going to be good.
Tell us why we have a matchup of 2, 1, and 4 teams on the card here.
Just to see if anyone was paying attention. But
game.
no, what is it, guys? The oldest rivalry in Division II. Now, I can't remember how old. It's over 100 years old. And
the Black Hills Brawl, right?
Yeah, there you go. And they are playing at Black Hills this time. So if you planned on parking right on the outside of the stadium and honking your horn, you might be a further distance away this year than you were a year ago. Guys, I was thinking about putting that one in the pick'em, but you know what? I think that we all kind of feel like Black Hills State should be better than one win, or maybe have looked like a better football team than that, and that we would all pick them in that. Is that a fair assumption?
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably so, yeah.
Okay. Well, we saved all the good stuff for the pick'em. This is our kind of our warm up here. So let's before we jump on in on that, let's go ahead and see. This is I was prepared to take another victory lap, but Tony instead did a 5-2 on us here. And to further look at our bizarro world, Tony and I are leading the pick'em this year. Not sure that says a whole lot for Division II football at that point if Tony and I are leading the pack. But guys, as we look across this year, I mean, the Pembroke game, Tony, obviously was a big one there for you. Indy took care of business. Chuck and I went on a limb and trusted Truman State, and they failed us miserably. But no, I mean, and then Northwest, that wasn't a surprise to our group. So, guys, let's go ahead and move forward. And by the way, thank you, John Dykstra, for our new graphic and for me not having to tabulate this each week. That said, didn't have this one on our slides before the year. Finley at Walsh, 4-0 against 4-0. Ferg, I'm starting off with you.
How tempting to see Walsh in this particular space. I'm kind of looking at their schedule right now. I mean, they played Ohio Dominican, Kentucky Wesleyan, Wheeling, and West Liberty. I mean, I like the fact that they can put up points, but I'm going to go with the proven team here. I'm going to go with Finley on the road. I think they're just a little bit more of a known commodity for me.
Okay. Tony, which direction are you going on this one?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much hard to ignore is the fact that Ferg just kind of outlined that Walsh, to their credit, they're 4-0, but the teams that they've beaten are a combined 4-12 on the season thus far. So Findley's definitely played the much more stern or sturdy of the schedules at this point. Now, Walsh is doing a hell of a job. I mean, you got to give them credit. I think they're only giving up like a tick under 10 points a game. So
yes.
That's a defense that is doing its work, and unfortunately their offense hasn't been as super effective. I mean, that game they against Ohio Dominican the other day, they trailed 7-0 until the fourth quarter, and then the offense finally decided to go put something up. So I think they're going to have to be a little bit more potent a little bit earlier in this one because Findlay can move the ball, especially if their ground game works. So if Walsh's run defense is as advertised, maybe it's stuff or sledding for Findlay. I just don't think it is. I like the Oilers too.
Coach Poe, what do you got, buddy?
Yeah, when I did a little research on this one, I think to me, Findlay's obviously the known commodity. Walsh have to win a game like this for me to really buy in, to start thinking, hey, that their roster can compete with a team like Findlay, who's battle tested. They've had some quality wins this year. So I'm going to take Findlay in this one. Walsh does put up points, but I just don't know that they're going to be able to do it against a tough Findlay team.
Chuck, everybody's going Findlay. What are your thoughts, buddy?
Yeah, I'll be a little influenced here because I saw Findlay back in week 1 up close, and I think there's a physicality to them that Walsh is going to have a pretty difficult time matching up with. But hey, I mean, don't dismiss the Cavs. I think it was, I'm just looking, I think it was last year they beat Ashland. They beat Ashland by 2 touchdowns last year. So they can play ball with the top teams in this league. So don't dismiss them. But yeah, I think Findlay just has a little too much physicality for this one.
I was looking for some angle that I could really bite into with Walsh, but when I gave this game a hard look, I just kept coming back to Findlay. I was having to go out of my way to take Walsh. I would like to see Walsh in the upset here. I kind of like what they got cooking, but I'm taking Findlay as well. Next game up, the Central Missouri of this year right now from the year previous. It's like that Spider-Man meme thing. But Central Mo and Central Oklahoma, both 2-2. Boy, which way do we lean on this one, guys?
You gonna throw somebody to make a bet?
I'm starting with you.
Did you say me?
Yes.
Because you can. Okay. Boy, this one to me is a coin flip, guys. I looked at this all day and I don't know. I'm gonna take, I think, Central Oklahoma. It's at home. I could see this one going either way. I'm gonna take Central Oklahoma.
Okay. Ferg. Fantasy implications all over the place, I'm sure, in this one. Who are you going with, buddy?
Man, if this is the epitome of the anti-K Ferg game, this is it. The two Centrals, they both could let me down. I hope they end up in a tie. I mean, jeez. You know, they both have a lot of concerns. They're certainly not as potent. I think UCO came in with a much higher ceiling to start the season, but they've just kind of gone flat. And Central Missouri has been, kind of up and down. But I guess in this one, if I got to pick somebody, I'm going to pick Central Missouri.
Okay. Tony, which direction are you going?
Yeah, I like Central in this one.
That Ferg almost did that.
Sorry. Yeah, so I gotta have a state that follows it. Okay. Gosh, man, Central Missouri always scares me, particularly on the road. I just can't. Again, it's recency bias, and maybe I'm going to get trapped here. It's just so hard for me to look at how Central Oak has basically slid over the last few weeks. And again, it could be injuries. It could be just adjusting to how they're going to run offense, with guys that are hurt, et cetera, et cetera. But man, and while Central Missouri's, they're handling business against people that they should, I don't know. Donovan Amolo's looked a little bit crisper and a little bit more protective of the ball the last couple of weeks. And he's been really difficult to deal with, both throwing it and running it. So I just think his ability to change the game in two different ways is going to be the difference. So I'll take the Mules. Chuck,
which way are you going, buddy?
I think UCO can still play some pretty good defense here. I'm more worried about their offense, and somebody mentioned the chat kind of depends on the injury list, and I would agree with that. But all things considered, I am going to go with the Mules here in this one.
Yeah, I'm a little bit conflicted. Jordan Pachot, the quarterback who had come on for Central Mo, he didn't play this last week when it even suited up. I'm assuming an injury or family situation or something. And so I don't really know. Is he coming back and playing? Is Donovan Amolo? I mean, for what it's worth, I felt better about them with Pachot leading the charge, if I'm going to be real frank. But at the same time, I think I'm going to take Central Mo over either. I just don't know if Central Oklahoma can hang with them if this game starts to pick up scoring wise. So it should be a great contest, but I'll take Central Mo myself. Moving on to our next contest, the Carson-Newman show. No, they have been on. We've had stretches where there's been a few teams. Pitt State was like this for a while. Carson-Newman's just playing that part of the schedule where they're playing all the kind of the toughest teams right in this stretch. So Carson-Newman, Emory and Henry. Now, Coach Poe You alluded to this game earlier, foreshadowed a little bit. I'm going to start off with you. How do you see this one?
This is interesting. I really like the way Carson-Newman is playing right now. I think they're playing really, really good football. They've won some pretty big games the last couple weeks. And Emory and Henry, they've won 2 in a row. Lost a game a couple weeks ago to Lenore Ryan, who was healthy at that point. Don't forget, last year Carson-Newman went to Emory and Henry, and they lost 17-10 rather. So these two have some history as of late, but I'm going to take Carson-Newman on the road. I think they're playing well right now. I think they're starting to hit their stride. They've played some pretty tough opponents the last couple weeks, and I think this is going to be a slugfest of a game, but I'm going to take Carson-Newman.
Chuck, I'm coming to you next. Can Carson-Newman stay hot here?
I think they can, Whit. The Eagles have kind of been that team for me since, this time a year ago, which no matter which way I pick, I'm on the wrong side of it with them. But
Yeah, right.
I am going to pick them to win this game. I think their defense is very good. They've been playing well. They certainly proved that. And, even though they didn't put up a ton of numbers at Wingate, I do like what their offense can do. It's a lot more diverse than people realize. They just give you so many different looks that they can be very difficult to prepare for. So I like the Eagles in this one.
Tony, which direction are you heading?
Man, I've struggled with this one pretty much all afternoon. There's just something about what the level of test that Carson-Newman has faced thus far that makes me feel like they can go on the road and get this game. I'm really uneasy picking them just because, again, I just felt like, is Emory and Henry's defense Wingate's defense? No. But I want to see Carson-Newman really put up some good offensive production against a good defense before I'm really on board. And you look at the couple teams that they played early in the season, nothing to write home about. But they definitely have looked good in these last 3 weeks, even though losing to Lenore Ryan, as Poe said, Lenore Ryan was healthy at the time. So I'm taking Carson-Newman, but there's something I feel like it's a guarantee I'm going to get it wrong.
Ferg, everyone's going Carson-Newman. How do you feel about this?
Well, last season it was Emory Henry who won this game. And I mean, to me, I think that, the schedule for Carson-Newman has been pretty tough. And I'm a little concerned about a letdown and what feels like or probably is a rivalry game. These two schools are not separated by very, very much distance on I-81. So, I'm probably going to go a little bit against the grain here. I'm going to go with the Wasps. I think they're going to have just enough. I think that that it's going to be another low-scoring slugfest, but I think that Emory Henry may have enough to pull the upset here.
I think Emory and Henry can throw the ball a little bit, and I think they can have a little more offensive firepower than what Carson-Newman has seen just lately.
Yeah.
And that makes me kind of lean a little bit that direction. At the same time, Carson-Newman is going to be in the top 25, I'm guessing, this week in ours, which is the kiss of death for plenty of teams, but we're not helping them out in the matter. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take Emory and Henry here as well, Ferg. So we got a little bit of a difference in that game, guys. Moving on forward to our next one, East Stroudsburg 3-1, Westchester 3-1. Chuck, I'm letting you start off this one, buddy.
Man, it throws me back to days when this game always had PSAC East implications. I still don't really know what to make of East Stroudsburg this year. I don't really know who they are. They are 3-1. They had the puzzling season opening loss to an Edinburgh team that's got a lot of fight in them, but Stroudsburg should have been the better team. And since then they've got a couple of blowout wins and had to hang on for dear life against Lockhaven. I just still don't really know who they are. Westchester at 3-1. Remember, their only loss is a very close game on the road at Cal, a game that they led for long stretches in that. I'm going with the Golden Rams here. I think their quarterback, Cooper Jordan, will be the best player on the field. He's a very dynamic athlete. I like the Golden Rams in this one.
Ferg, you next, buddy.
Yeah, one, ESU scares me. And number two, it's homecoming for Westchester. So they should be coming out with a little bit more fight. And I agree with everything Chuck said as well. I'm going with Westchester.
Tony, how do you see this one?
Yeah, I've been trying to find my way to being able to pick the Fighting Terwilligers, and I just can't do it. I just think it's Westchester at home on this one.
Coach Bo, how do you see it?
Westchester, homecoming, enough said.
I watched Westchester earlier this season with Cal. There was plenty of times where I thought that was their game to win, and that was at Cal. So that said, I agree with what Chuck had mentioned about Cooper Jordan. Real nice player, can do a little everything, and so I am going to also take Westchester in this one, which should be a game. I would think that the winner of this puts themselves in a position to kind of be in the playoff conversation at 4-1 at that point. So Augustana at Sioux Falls, and apparently we couldn't quite fit the graphic on there. I'm going to blame that our tech support department, but the Sioux Falls with the record part. But in case those are looking, it's like a puzzle. Everybody's looking for it now. Augustana's 5-0. They've got some injuries. Sioux Falls 3-2. They got some injuries and are coming off 2 tough losses. Augustana hasn't played a very tough schedule getting to this point, so we're not totally sure what we know about them. Their toughest opponent so far is Missouri Western, and they won that game, first game of the season, in a tight one. Tony, which direction are you going on this one?
All right, this is my Northern Sun. What you think shouldn't make sense happens. Pick of the week. Give me the coup.
The coup. And if you had the coup being picked right away, you thought that was on your card. Well, I'll tell you. K. Ferg, which way are you heading on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a number of things kind of working against Augie here. The injuries that you mentioned, for one, the schedule was number 2. And, Sioux Falls kind of already taken their lumps a little early. So that 3-2 is a little underselling them as well. So I'm going to go with Sioux Falls on this one.
We've got quite the mix in the comments. That's for sure. Chuck, how do you see this one? Maybe not as easy to pick as the records would indicate, or maybe is it Augustana here?
I'm really tempted to go with the pick for the same reason that Tony did, just totally based on the feel without even assessing the teams. It just feels like a spot where a rival that probably is perceived to be not as good is going to rise up and win the game and beat their rival. But no, I'm going to go with Augustana here, Whit. I feel like Augie's one of those teams of about 3 or 4. I mentioned West Alabama and a couple others. I think Augie's a team that I've kind of been underrating since the start of the season. I think Augie wins this game. I think that they are really in a good place to win the Northern Sun. And I'm going to go with the Vikings here.
Well, we've got Dan Brookins, local radio over closer to Mankato. He follows us very closely. He's got Augie winning a low-scoring game. Very split in the comments so far. Coach Poe, which direction are you going on this one?
Yeah, the injuries for Augie are a pretty big concern. What that depth looks like, and how does that pan itself out? And then obviously with the schedule side of things, makes it a little challenging. When you look at Sioux Falls, the record I think is deceiving, and obviously I think playing at home is a little bit of an equalizer to the momentum that Augie has. I'm going to take Sioux Falls in this one at home.
Wow, surprised by some of the love that Sioux Falls is getting here. I'm seeing a few more Augie in the comments than I am Sioux Falls at this point. I don't know where to go on this game because I don't know the full extent of some of the injuries that happened late in the Augustana game. If Gunnar Hensley at quarterback is unable to go, I think that does certainly impact them. I think Sioux Falls having the injuries that they do on their defense, kind of on the outside, makes them a bit of a shell of what they were. A few weeks back. Augustana has won the last 2 key games like this after Sioux Falls had won a large percentage of them up until this point since they started this in 2012. I feel like Sioux Falls is better than their record. I'm going to stay with Sioux Falls here, but boy, I tell you, it's like I almost want to see when everybody comes running out of the tunnel, I want to see who's dressed and who's not, if you guys know what I mean. Johnson C. Smith, 4-1. Virginia State, 2-2. One of those losses, Ferg, is to FCS. Am I correct?
That's right.
Okay. So, Ferg, I'll be honest with you. I wasn't planning when I started this graphic midweek, thinking, okay, this is gonna be a humdinger here. All of a sudden, Virginia State decided to mess with me a little bit and drop that game. Ferg, are we still pretty high on Virginia State here to be the better team, or now am I second guessing this?
Well, I mean, to me, I kind of look at this and I think about world politics, and there's a meme out there of Jacob Zuma former South African president who goes into parliament and says, "Every time I come in here, I get abused," and that's how I feel about, and that's exactly how I feel about Virginia State secondary. Now they got to go against one of the better quarterbacks in the league in Kelvin Durham, and that doesn't inspire a lot of confidence. There's going to be a lot of yards, a lot of passing yards in this game between R.J. Matthews and Kelvin Durham. There's going to be a lot of great defense on the defensive lines and that front seven in particular for both teams. But, in the end, for me, I think that JCSU is a little bit more of the complete team. And I'm going to pick them on the road.
Tony Nicolette, are you going with Ferg's thoughts, or where are you headed on this?
I am.
Okay.
Tony is JCSU all day. I mean,
we've got Golden Bulls twice here. Coach Poe, which way are you going?
Man, when I first took this one, I think I was definitely leaning towards Johnson C. Smith. But the more I dug into this one and I looked at it, when you look at it, the 2-2 record for Virginia State is just not indicative. There is something in my gut saying Virginia State's going to win this football game. I don't know if it's when you look at the schedules and you look at kind of how they've matched up. Johnson C. Smith won down in Valdosta, but does that win mean as much as it did at that time? I don't know. I think it's but there's something about Virginia State competing with Norfolk State there in that overtime loss. Again, that you say what you want about Norfolk State, that's still Division I. They still have that. They still have the scholarships Division I's have. So, Virginia State. I'm going to take Virginia State at home.
Is that Michael Vick also or not?
At Norfolk, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Chuck, which way you going, buddy?
Well, I've shown some confidence in both of these teams in the last couple of weeks, and both of them kind of let me down. So, I'm not really sure which way to go with this one. I think Virginia State being at home definitely helps. So I will go with the Trojans.
You know what? I also feel like Virginia State, I had a lot of faith in them a week ago. I feel like they rebound here and show that they are a better team than what they did a week ago. I like Johnson C. Smith. Don't get me wrong, but I'm starting to feel like that win over Valdosta. Some of the glitter on that may not all be gold. So I'll take Virginia State myself, and we're on to the final contest. This is an interesting ball game here.
Yes, it is.
4-0 UTPB making the trip to Angelo State 4-0. Tony, I'm starting off with you, buddy.
Oh man, I will openly admit that I very much undersold Angelo State in the early going of this season. However, I also think I probably undershot what Permian Basin's defense is capable of. So I don't know. There's something about the way Coach McCullough's got things running at UTPB right now, where even on the road, I just think that defense is going to travel well. And this is probably the best defense Angelo's seen yet this year. Could be the same case the other way, but I'm taking Permian Basin.
Ferg, which direction are you going, buddy?
I kind of agree with what was just said, but at the same time, I do like what Angelo State's been able to do with their schedule. It is a little bit tougher. They've been able to sort of weather the storm, even with some of the issues they've had to deal with. And this at home for them. This at home. for Angelo State. So, I mean, there's a lot of things I really like about the Rams here. Not to take away from UTPB, who is going to give them quite a bit of challenge. But I think the Rams are going to be the one that's favored. That's what I'm going with.
Coach Poe, how you going, buddy?
Oh, man. You had to ask. This one is interesting to me. I think this year I've gone against UTPB a couple of times, and it's bit me in the tail, and I've picked Angelo, and they've let me down. So for that reason, I'm going to take UTPB. I'm going to take UTPB in this one.
Fair enough. Chuck, where are you going, buddy?
Yeah, this is the best game of the week by far. Going into this week's schedule, I really like that Angelo has the bye week that they're coming off of. I think that's a big advantage in this. The thing that we still don't know is Braden Fuller. You know, he was injured early in the game against Emporia, has not played since then. So not sure if we really knew. Yeah. Craig, our LSC columnist, so I'd be a lot more confident. I feel exactly the same way. I do know that Permian Basin will have Cannon Gibson, who I think is playing at a very high level right now, potentially playing at like an LSC Player of the Year type of level. Really like what he's doing. I think this is going to be a defensive football game. I don't think this gets particularly high scoring because I really like both defenses. The Fuller thing, the quarterback thing really gives me some pause in picking Angelo. But again, I like that they're at home and I like that they're coming off the bye week. I think this is super, super close, but I am going to go with the Rams to win a close one.
I'm going to go with UTPB for the quarterback situation. I just feel better about it. Yep. I really do. I think if all of the things are equal, and I don't know if they are, I'll be honest, I think Angelo might be a little bit better overall when you take out quarterback to quarterback and you just look at the rest of the football team. But as we know, quarterback is such an influential position in terms of a team's performance. I'm going to go with UTPB here, but I expect for this to be a heck of a ball game.
Yep, no doubt. And that, I believe, was the last one. So we threw this in here, and again, we don't necessarily acknowledge and celebrate all the players that move on from Division II through the portal and go on to other programs. But when you have people on ESPN talking about a guy who came from Division II last year being a Heisman Trophy contender, and he wasn't even a starting player at the beginning of the season, special times, special circumstances. And I'll tell you something, guys, I actually watched a little bit of this game this morning because it was just on cable, and I just picked it up at a point where Greg McElroy was talking about Trinidad, and he had mentioned, in talking to the Ole Miss coaches, when they put tape on of Trinidad and they're watching him, they also picked up a few plays from Ferris State's playbook because they were so impressed by what they do, which was certainly not surprising at all to hear.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise any of us. And Chuck, I do want to go ahead and throw out some thanks to a lot of the usual parties that we have here: Flow College, KQ2 in St. Joe, Missouri, PSAC Sports Digital Network, Sports Network from Harding, and Carson-Newman as well for giving, allowing us to go ahead and have that video available on the show. So, Chuck, do we have
the very best? Wait, I want to say you mentioned Billy and the team there at the Harding Sports are two of the very best in Division II in the content that they put out to support their programs, all their programs, but of course we're football centric. The team at Carson-Newman, Adam Cavalier and his guys and gals do amazing work. They treat that like it's a Division I program. Amazing work that they do. So we thank them for their content. And Whit, we've gone a little bit long, but we haven't been able to do a lot of questions in the last couple of weeks. So why don't you bring down the screens and let's go look at a couple.
Sure.
I tagged a few.
I'm in a feisty mood. Why not?
Just for giggles. Actually, I'm going to get rid of one or two that I already did bring up. Here was an interesting one. RMAC Insider checking in. Appreciate that. I remember this game. The last time it was in Spearfish. Black Hills was kind of the favored team, and Mines rolled them. They had a really good offense on that Mines team. They still had Jaden Johansson, the quarterback, and a couple of really good receivers. And I do remember that one. Excellent game.
No doubt.
Let's pull that one down. I have no idea who's in the Sacker Conference Carolinas. If only there was a website where you could go research all of that.
Bam.
Dang. That's amazing.
Shots fired.
That's a Brandon grade comment. We love it.
Yes.
CN had never beat Wingate at night. Yeah. Wingate's only had lights about 7-8 years, but that's been a tough environment there. So, yeah, first win at night. Thanks to Gladman for checking in. Frostburg and UNC Pembroke move into the top 25, as well as Carson-Newman and Northwest. Pembroke, I think, is right there. Frostburg, no, not yet.
Hadn't made anybody.
Here's the thing. Getting in the top 25 is all about what you're doing right now this year. We know that. But they're in the same position they were last year when they got to 6-0. They hadn't beaten anyone, and then they lost 5-0, and they lost 6 games in a row. So they're 4-0, exactly where they need to be. Good for them. Their 4 opponents that they've beaten to this point have a combined 0 victories. Not one. 0 victories.
Correct.
So we're going to have to see Frostburg win something that really matters before we can talk about them as top 25. They're right where they need to be. They're doing everything that they need to, but not there for top 25 just yet. And that would be
Chuck, I think it's going to be a little while too. Their next opponent is Concord.
Yeah, I think they've got Charleston in about 2 or 3 weeks. That's going to be their.
right.
That's going to be their. Let's see. Dykstra checking out what he said. Carson-Newman and Northwest back-to-back segments bring back memories.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Who wants to explain that?
Well, they played each other, and wasn't it back-to-back national championship games in the late 90s?
I was just going to say 20 plus years ago.
Yeah.
98 and 99. I think it was the 99 season in particular. Went into overtime and is just unbelievable football game. So
you can find that game on the YouTube machine. But
yep.
Chuck, this is a similar question, and I know that this got brought up also on our Twitter handle, but appears to have boomeranged onto the show. Chuck, pretty kind of same situation with Frostburg, yes?
Yes and no. We'll give them a shout out. Remember, Post is still very much in the infancy of building their program. So for them to be 3-0 really against any competition is great for them. They're building that program. They're still really new at this. I think this is only their 2nd or 3rd year as part of the Northeast 10. So yeah, the competition's not very good. There's a couple of, 2 of those teams they played are really, really bad. But again, for them to be 3-0 against anybody is really good progress for them. So yeah, I'm happy to give them a shout out. They're doing all the right things. Good for them.
Yep. Yeah, I think that was in the context of the top 25 before, but
sure.
Chip, I wanted to mention this. 3-5-3 is the defense to run against Harding. That is the wrong answer.
No, it isn't.
A 4-man front like you saw Northwest run for years, and what they were able to do with that was the definitive. The way that they defended that was like going to school on how to do that. I mean, there's been plenty of people who have called Rich Wright over the years about tell us how you've done this. So the 3-man front, the problem with that is you got a lot of spaces open for that to go ahead and run that dive. And Colorado Mines found that out. Just a quick thing I noticed there, but
let's throw up a few more. Kfar, you want to help me out with this? I had a little bit of chatter back and forth during the week, which did not go well. Trying to support the belief that Edward Waters is at least playing at a top 25 level. I don't think my point got through maybe the way I wanted it to, but at any rate, they're getting close. So where do you think Edward Waters is in terms of being a rankable team at this point?
Well, the problem with Edward Waters is in their conference right now. They've got Albany State, who has a lot of name recognition, and you got Benedict, who's also undefeated. And Benedict is turned into a machine.
They found some offense.
Well, not just that, but their defense is scoring. Their special teams is scoring multiple games in a row. I mean, when you look at Edward Waters and they barely squeak by a toothless Morehouse Maroon Tigers, I mean, that doesn't inspire a lot of confidence to me. And so, yeah, I agree with every point that you made to them, but they just didn't take it very kindly, and they're very passionate, and I get it, but I would have Benedict in the top 25 right now before I would have Edward Waters if it was me.
Sure. And they, to be fair, they were hanging their hat on the fact that they had beaten Virginia Union, who we still have in our poll. And I think that's just partly our voters thinking there's still a higher ceiling there for Virginia Union down the road than Edward Waters. But at any rate, I think we've spoken pretty favorably about what they're doing down there in Jacksonville. So let's pull that down. Whit, if you want to go through and see if anything new has propped up. Here's a funny one. Northwest back like Coach Poe after a 2-week absence. So,
Yeah, buddy.
Here's one. Any metal concerts this week, Chuck? Yes, actually, last Tuesday night, I saw the legendary and incomparable Bruce Dickinson at the Fillmore in Philadelphia. Of course, Bruce, the front man for Iron Maiden, phenomenal performer, heavy metal superstar. Probably, to me, one of the top 3 or 4 metal frontman ever. Put on a tremendous show. So, yes, saw it, loved it. No more metal reviews for a while.
Oh, I'm going to post one last thing. James, we love you, but this is not the Ferris and Harding hour. I know that every one of your comments is about who else is there that could possibly challenge. If you think no one else can, then don't watch. It's that easy.
Yeah, I mean, your opinion's probably right. They're the 2 best teams in the country, but if we just discarded everyone else, then I could save a lot of time on Sundays.
Yeah, it's kind of silly.
So
that's true.
Anyway, thank you.
It's gotten tired. It's gotten very tired.
Thank you for all of the comments. Thank you for all the interaction. Love being here with you guys on Sunday nights. When we get back here next week, wow, it'll be October. So time to start thinking towards the second half of the season. Lots of exciting stuff coming up. And as always, remember to check the website throughout the week long. And I apologize, I didn't mean to be a jerk to the person who was talking about the teams, but we literally have a whole website where you can go find that info about who's in what league and anything else you're going to find. Sign up for the message board. Join the community, visit all week long, top 25 on Monday, players of the week on Tuesday, columns and podcasts all week long from the whole crew. So make sure you're checking in with us, and then we'll see you back here next Sunday night for Inside D2 Football. Night, everyone.